thought I'd talk a little bit about accessibility in the wild. 5 things that I think we can do collectively as a society to make sure that we can include all people of all ability levels. And there are a couple of specific things that I've learned, but also just general things. And it goes beyond the ramp or wheelchair elevator to really what we can do in practical and small ways to make it so that it is an inclusive space for everyone. So the first thing is to have carts that have a seat in them for a child that is unable to walk. And so we would say a non-ambulatory child. So anyway, it does not have to be a specific cart to that. There are some out there, and I think that's fantastic. I believe a family with a child that was non-ambulatory created one because it is a struggle. They are not quite old enough to use the power chairs that are at stores, but if they're in a push chair, then you can't push the cart. So it becomes quite a conundrum. Right now, if I am at a store that does not have a special cart for Asher, I bribe a child with a treat from the store. I say, whoever pushes Asher gets a treat from that store. And it works. It works out for us. But what would really be wonderful would be not to have to take out the clunky wheelchair and work the cart and make sure that that child remembers to push Asher the whole time. Although the last time we were at Costco, a lady came up to Noah at the end and said he had done a very good job pushing him. So that was good. But it's a lot harder to do that than to just have a cart that you can use. And I typically will decide where we grocery shop based on the cart that is there. I love to go to the Dollar Tree, but they have the worst carts for Asher. So it's just, it would be a wonderful thing if everybody had those carts, and I'm going to try to add a picture, those carts that have a back bench, if that makes sense. And I'm going to try to add a picture as well. But the bench where the kids sit, my kids call them the blue cart at Walmart, has no bar or anything on top of the legs. So being on top of the legs, if you have a high tone child, they will not be able to put their legs in, through, or under that bar. So having the bench, there's not that bar over top. Now that's for a high tone child. I understand that some children struggle with low tone, and so that would be when you would really want to have one of those special carts that was made by the family with a child with special needs. So number one, carts. Carts are a wonderful thing, and they really help a family with a child with special needs. And I have been thinking about this. I think sometimes, especially I actually took out dairy, gluten, eggs when Jacob was a baby because there were some digestive issues, and I figured that was the best way to work with it because we would have had to give a special kind of formula. Anyway, it's the story for another time. But in doing that, I needed to bring food whenever we went anywhere because I couldn't be positive that there was going to be something for me to eat. However, it was always a blessing to me when people that knew that I was facing that would say, what can we make that you can eat? And I try to do that for other people that I know that have any kind of allergies. I'll try to contact them beforehand if they're coming to our home and say, what can I make that you like and that you can eat? So there is a train of thought that's like, if you have the allergy, you have to provide. But there's also a train of thought that that person that's dealing with that diagnosis, that allergy, whatever it is, already has enough mental load. They should not have to worry about bringing their own food. So for me, this is just a informational video. It would be a wonderful thing if places in general had these things in place so that they can be more welcoming and inclusive to all of the people that want to patronize their place of business. This also goes for community centers, which brings us to our number 2, which is to have a high chair or a special chair that a child can sit in. And there are some that work for low tone and some that work for high tone. So high tone, again, no bar on top. There are quite a few high chairs, and we actually own one that we use for Hannah that has a bar on top. That doesn't work. The other thing you have to think about for a child that would be low tone would be a supportive back. And there are several that just have, and I'll try again. I'll put some pictures up and I'll link as well, because I know that maybe some of you that are watching work for a church or a community center where you have meals, and to have a place to sit for a child that may be transitioning into a wheelchair from a special adaptive stroller or whatever else that they are facing. I think especially like that 4, 5, 6 years old, for the kids that are non-ambulatory, is really a transition period, because before that, everything is kind of made for that age, made for that size. Especially a lot of children, especially with CP, are smaller than their age counterparts, if that makes sense, because their muscles are always tight, and so they have a higher metabolism, and they don't gain weight as quickly. They don't gain that length as quickly because of how tight their muscles are. So typically you kind of are in that stage a little bit longer, but it's a transition. You're transitioning them into more adaptive equipment, which you need for an older child that's not going to fit. So in order to serve that community, having the right high chair that family knows, if I go, I don't have to drag out all the equipment. I can just bring my child in and put them in this special chair, and they can eat. There's a tray so that there isn't that trying to keep, because often there's, fine motor as well as large motor. So having that so that there's fine motor and large motor support is great for number 2. Number 3 would be a cube chair. Here, I'm going to put it there. And again, I'm going to try to add pictures and also link these things. But a cube chair is a special chair that a child can sit in a little more easily. So to have that, and they typically work with most preschool tables. So if you're in a nursery, or if you're in a church childcare setting, or a community center childcare setting, those tables will work with a cube chair. So having a cube chair that gives a little bit more support, and they work with both high tone and low tone, because there's no bar, nothing to have to kind of shove legs into. So those are great, and they're not crazy expensive for adaptive equipment. Adaptive equipment in general is really expensive, but that one is not crazy. The 4th would be a boardwalk or a mat, a beach mat. We have gone hiking on places where they had a boardwalk basically throughout, and that makes it so that any kind of wheels can go, and that's a wonderful thing. We also have used the beach mat at Bethany Beach, which is close to us. They also offer a beach wheelchair for anybody that needs it, which is fantastic. And the one that we used was so big that Abby and Asher both could sit on them. And with that, so oftentimes, like I said, it was so big because it's made for an adult. So I will typically put one of my older kiddos to sit beside him, especially if it's something like that, so they can kind of help keep him on. Another thing with a beach wheelchair is they're easier to pull than they are to push. And sometimes even if you tip them up and pull so that it's only one set of wheels on the sand, you can pull them in a lot easier. So that's my number 4, would be those boardwalks, the beach mats, and these are kind of a variety of prices, a variety of effort put in, but in the long run, to make something more accessible to a population that already has enough on their mind. They already are thinking about how am I going to make this work? It's such a blessing to have something there already that you know it's taken care of. So number 4 is boardwalk or beach mat. Those are fantastic. And then number 5 would be just the level and height to have it work for a child that might be able to high kneel, which means, or tall kneel is the real word. I say high kneel because we have a little joke, me and Asher, where I say, "Hi Neil, how are ya?" But anyway, high kneel that they'd be able to reach. So we have a local children's museum where he can play in the water. There are certain things that are just the right height that he can reach, because in a wheelchair or in a walker, oftentimes they can't get close enough. So you really want things that will allow that child to interact with whatever it is that's on display at a height that they can do. The other height that you might want to think about as well is the height of a table that you can push the wheelchair up to. And typically folding tables, like those plastic 6-foot folding tables, are just the right height. So again, it doesn't have to be super expensive to be adaptive, accessible, and inclusive. So thank you for listening. And again, I'm going to try to add those pictures and also to add some links in my description. Thanks. I'll see you again. Hi, it's Sarah from the future. I had forgotten to ask and would love to hear any ideas from y'all if there's anything that works for you or anything that you can think of with your child with special needs, or even just if you work in proximity with them. If you have any additions to what I've already said, I'd love to see that in the comments below. Talk to you soon. Look at you go. You got it.
Ooh, you made it. All the way up. All the way in.
That's it. There. I thought I would add our super adaptive play set that we got for free from somebody that we knew that was giving it away. We are so enjoying it, and Asher can access every part of it, which we love.